You are listening to The Ben Keech Show, where every day the objective is simple. Ben will never stop fighting the fight and lighting the light on topics that affect you every day.
How the heck is everybody doing? My name is Ben, and you are listening to the 55th episode of The Ben Keech Show. I'm so glad you're here, and we have, I think, a really doozy of a topic today. I'm excited about it. It's something that's honestly kind of personal, and I got a couple stories I want to tell you guys, and I'll definitely be looking forward to any feedback that you can bring my way on this topic. So the episode title is Ego and Self-Love. Ego and Self-Love. And I don't know if those two words connect right away for you guys. I think we probably know what self-love is. It's a very common phrase in our society today, loving yourself, self-love. You know, I'm going to take myself out. I'm pampering myself. It always comes from kind of a place of, what was I doing before? Oh, I didn't care about myself before, and now I'm going to prove to you that I care about myself. I don't know. There's something interesting about that we're going to look at, but then we're going to look at ego. And we're going to examine why those two words are connected and whatnot. But, you know, we have words like humility, confidence, egomaniac, arrogance, and there's connections with all those words. And a lot of times I think when we think of ego, we think of the egomaniac. We think of the person that's full of themselves. But the reality is, the most meek person you know can have a problem with ego. Ego infiltrates itself into all levels of confidence, into all types of people in different ways, especially in our relationships with whomever, kids, spouse, whatever, coworkers. So that's going to be the topic. I'm going to kind of start with a story for you, and actually two stories. The first story, and some of you listening may know, but and I would say probably in 2013, a fellow teacher, Mr. Scott, he came into my classroom, and on my desk, I had two desks side by side. On my desk, I had what was a quote board, and I had quotes that were things said by me, things said by other students. I had to approve the quotes. They would write them on scratch pieces of paper. They would tape them up there, and this is in essence what it was. Well, on the quote board, I had a lot of different things. Things like, oh my gosh, like what does that mean? Well, I want to be in that class, or what was being said, or, you know, certain things that are like, okay, maybe things you don't hear every day. And Mr. Scott came into my classroom after school one day, and he literally started tearing down the quotes. He's like, I like you too much. You are going to get in trouble. And you're going to get fired. They're going to fire you. You know, they don't like, you know, they're after you. They're after me. Because we don't fit into their normal teacher box. You know, this programmable box of teachers that, you know, basically in essence, kiss ass, do education a certain way. There's a way you have to do education. And he didn't teach that way, and I didn't teach that way, because it didn't make sense to me in terms of what actually kids want and need. And I wasn't going to have a boring class. So he does that. I'm like, Mr. Scott, no, you can't, no, not the quotes. You can't take the knives. Like, you're going to get fired. Well, that was 2013. I ignored my teacher friend. And I continued semester after semester. The quote board had been there for years. Principals had seen it, never did anything about it until they wanted to do something to me. And they wanted to target me, which they did, which led to me not being a teacher anymore because they didn't like my quotes and some of the things that were said. I'm telling you this story. It was a hard lesson because I'm going to tell you I'm going to tell you there's nothing wrong with any of those quotes. I'm going to say it was freedom of speech. It was educational. It was entertaining. It was a creative way to teach. It drew kids in. Kids walked to my classroom. Oh my gosh, I can't wait till we talk about this. Like, they were excited walking in. They were laughing walking out. And they learned a heck of a lot of stuff in the middle about a lot of things. And we had open dialogue. We had discussions. I cared about them. I wanted them to make great decisions for the rest of their lives. And it was centered around that. My Club 121 kids, the Christian club that I sponsored, they would put Bible verses up there, things that they talked about in club. It was a diverse free speech board, which I'm a lover of free speech. And as I dealt with 2014, 2015, 2016, instead of, not going to my classroom, going to my lawnmower, not doing those things that I was passionate about with kids, I had to ask where do I take accountability here? I didn't want to take accountability. They're wrong. I'm right. And in some level, if I really wanted to argue that point, I could make that case, but it didn't behoove me to continue to make that case because there was a blatant problem in all of this. And it was my pride. It was ego. You see, I was untouchable. Why was I untouchable? All my reviews were perfect. I'm an amazing teacher. Kids liked me. They needed me. I was good. I've been there forever. I looked at myself as untouchable. What are they really going to do? I stuck my middle finger up at the district. And when they decided to act, I realized how little I am, how much power I don't have. I'm an employee in a district with hundreds of teachers, thousands of teachers. I'm just a guy who pushed the limits for good reason, but a humble approach, putting myself, we didn't have to do the quotes. It wasn't necessary. It didn't have to happen. I just liked it. I just thought it was a good idea. But you're going to put every single word that's said. Think about every word that you say in your life. Now let's put it on a piece of paper for your girlfriend to read, for your dad to read, for your boss to read. You're in trouble. You better be careful. It's one thing if I say it into the cosmos and it disappears. It's another whole thing if it's put down where people can read. Ego. Number 2, I was married for 19 years and I have 3 wonderful kids. My ex is an amazing person doing great in her life. She's actually engaged. So there you go. But my ego got in the way. Now, if she were sitting here right now, oh yeah, she would tell you a different version than what I'm going to tell you. And I'm not saying that her version's wrong or right. It's complicated, but it's a different version. What I'm saying that how my ego affected my marriage and derailed me mentally is that the statement, anybody that's been in a rough relationship, anybody that's been in a rough marriage will identify with this phrase, because the phrase that I kept saying to myself is, what do I deserve? I was wrapped around the mentality that I deserve better. I deserve this. I deserve someone this. Like I could tell you what it was. I could paint a picture of what I deserved and what I should have. That sounds like a whole lot about me. There's ego wrapped around that. Even if it's true, even if it's like you would feel bad for me or you could, anybody listening to this could say the same thing. I was in this relationship and he treated me this way, he treated me that way, and what I was like, yeah, right. I deserve better. Okay. We're gonna come back to that. That makes sense that you deserve better. There's something about that we're gonna uncover, that there's an ego there's something wrong in there. We're gonna figure it out by the end of the episode. Okay. Now is a perfect segue into self-love. So what do we say as a culture? What do we say in our society about self-love? Well, we definitely talk about loving ourselves. I have to find my happiness, my truth, what's true for me. I have to take care of myself. There's a selfish, self-absorbed mentality that's kind of seeped into the pores of our personhood as a country and as a society. And we justify it. This is an important part. We justify it because we look at what happens bad to us. We look at how we're screwed over, how we weren't treated right. They just don't know my worth. Okay? Okay, maybe. Maybe I don't like you very much. But something is a little weird if you have to say that out loud. I know my worth. That's something that actions represents, not your lazy English language. There needs to be something. If you know your worth, then step up and act like it. It's like being a baseball player on a team, and I know I'm a good hitter. Dude, you struck out 7 times in a row. You suck. You're lucky you're even on this team. But I don't care what you know. What you know doesn't matter. It's what you do. Act like it then. If you're a good hitter, act like it. Good hitters hit. You don't hit. You're not a good hitter. I know my worth. I don't care what you know. You're just saying random phrases right now that sound good in 2024. It doesn't mean anything to me. So this is kind of this angle of, you can see where I'm coming from now, where there's an ego attached to something that doesn't seem egotistical, but it is. The core of it is self. Say, okay, well, Ben, what's the antidote? How do we then, if self-love and self-care and this, you're saying there's something selfish about those things. I am saying that. You're saying something selfish. So what do? We live for other people. It's not about us. People that go into education don't go into education for themselves, by and large. They go in because they think there could be a need in that school, in our society, to help kids come along. I was talking to a good friend of mine who she's an administrator in another school district here in Kansas City. And what she orchestrated in her district was that she brought in graduated kids to the professional development days that teachers have before school starts. And the kids talked about how this teacher, that teacher changed their life, made this type of difference, showed them a different way of thinking, of looking. Teachers were in tears. And what happened? Because we in education, we go into it selflessly. We don't get a lot of accolades. We don't get a lot of feel good. We know that we're appreciated. We know these things happen, but we don't know how things turn out. Imagine in your life, if people that you made a difference in 5 years ago came back and told you and your 50 closest friends what you meant for them, what you did for them. Like, that's a powerful thing. It's not self-love. Knowing your worth. They're telling you your worth. Our measuring stick of what we do and what we're trying to live for isn't to make sure I get my spa day once a week. It's not to make sure that my girlfriend tells me how wonderful I am every day, or whatever. It's what am I doing for other people? The value of my life, whatever that mathematical equation is, has to equal something at the end of the day, that there's a net positive for me being on this planet for other people. That's humility. That's putting other people first. That's the type of life that we need people to live. Let's change gears and show you something from a kind of a different thought process for a second. Let's take a Democrat and a Republican. Okay, right? We got the election coming up. We're going to be talking a lot of politics here on the Ben Keech Show in the coming weeks. I'm going to take a quick drink. Hopefully it's not like loud to all those folks out there, but my girlfriend, when she drinks, she like gulps louder than like the Niagara Falls. It's like crazy. That I don't know if that was loud. That hopefully was quiet, but yeah, I don't think she listens to the episode, so I don't think she'll know. I just called her out on that. We'll find out. Take a Republican and a Democrat. Now let's take the ego and put it away. Why do people say that you shouldn't talk politics? Shouldn't talk religion, shouldn't talk politics? Somehow, some way, it's because someone's ego's in the way. There's no reason on the face of this earth that you couldn't talk about the most controversial issues with anybody out there and you don't walk away friends. It's only going to be an issue if your ego gets in the way. If you can stay humble and listen, acknowledge and understand and not try to convince, it's not an argument to win, it's not a debate to prove someone wrong, you should be able to talk about anything. If you can't talk about anything with anyone, that's on you. Well, I just don't like controversy. I don't like. Okay, fine. That might be an exception to the rule. I just like to stay neutral. So you're weak. You don't have opinions? Well, I know, but it's just always okay, I keep talking like that, and we'll continue to have only the loudest people in the room talk because you're too scared. Okay, let's get back. That's the kid on, but that's actually true if you think about it. Okay. What then keeps ego around? I mean, does ego lead to our success? Maybe. Some people may argue we don't like Donald Trump's ego. He might win and be successful, but there is a cost. I think he would be a better human being if we saw more humility, but I'm not his campaign manager. But what keeps ego around? I'm going to give you a one-word answer to that, and it's comfort. Ego makes us comfortable. Donald Trump can talk about his large crowd size. Yeah, whatever. His large crowds. We had so many. I don't do imitations. We had so many people. It was the biggest crowd I've ever seen. The people were coming from everywhere. They were watching on the mountains around the stadium that nobody could get into. And I'm just so good. That's what he's saying, right? It gives him comfort. Like, if you think about it, those types of braggadocious comments, all they really do is make him comfortable and that he's doing something good. It's soothing an insecurity. I don't know if there's a fear in this case, but I do think this stems from insecurity. I really do. And again, you know, I'm voting for the guy. But that is ultimately what ego do. It doesn't fix our insecurity. It doesn't solve our fear. But it's like putting aloe vera lotion on a horrible sunburn. It might feel good for a second. It's still blistering. It still hurts. Okay, it's not curing the sunburn. And think about a different comment coming from a humble place. Now, I am sure maybe at some of these rallies, Donald Trump acknowledges, like, I'm so thankful for you guys to be. I don't know. I think, but not a lot. Like, I went to a Zach Bryan concert, and that guy is amazing, by the way. But he was so gracious and humble throughout his concert. The way that, and it could have been an act. I don't know the guy. I'm going to assume it wasn't an act. But I'm going to assume I saw the real guy. So humble, so thankful, so gracious. He was genuinely honored to be there. Like, it was almost like his fame and popularity, like he's still thinking about himself 5 years ago as a nobody. And now he's playing in front of stadiums and coliseums and arenas, sold out night after night. And it hasn't hit him yet. That's how he comes across. Now, the good part about Donald Trump's approach is that he's like, we're doing this, like a movement, right? We're doing this. We've got the biggest crowds. We've got the momentum. We have the energy. We're winning this election. And when it's your guy, that can like rile up the troops. And I'm not saying there's not a place for that all the time, but man, our society is short on humility. And before you point the finger at Donald Trump and saying that he's a poster child of an arrogant SOB, which is very much true, I'm telling you, egos are screwing up our societies all across the board. Women are constantly, and some men are constantly taking their traumas, their past hurts, how they've been screwed over. I had that mentality. I deserve better. This isn't fair. I have more to offer. Like, we're going on that and then saying, well, I'm going to justify doing whatever I'm going to do. I'm going to take care of myself. Nobody took care of me. Boy, we're don't look at Donald Trump for looking at we're doing the same thing in just different ways. He has a bigger microphone. He does it in a more brash way, but we all have some guilt here in this. What we want to do is we want to live in truth. We want the way that whatever we are, whatever's going on, to be honest. We need honest people in our lives to tell it. I have a friend of mine, another friend of mine. She is honest with me. Like, she's listened to a couple podcast episodes. Like, I don't even know where you're going with this. I was like, rude? She's like, I think you can do this better. I think this would be, and she gave me pointers. I agreed with some of the things she said. But what startled me was that, and she's done this in other areas of my life, where she's just willing to say what I need to hear. And I don't like it every time. I don't agree every time. But I'm going to keep someone like that in my corner every single second, every step of the way, because I know I don't know. I know that as much as I may think certain things about myself, boy, I fall short. And I need to see things, ways in which people see me. And I think that's the idea of living in truth. What are you good at? You know, my son Brett, who you met in a couple episodes, I thought he did a really good job. So did Jonathan. They were nervous. You know, that was kind of a big deal for them. I thought they were brave and wise and just did an amazing job. If you haven't got a chance to listen to those episodes, it's a couple episodes ago. I encourage you to listen to it. But Brett, one of the things about Brett as a youngster growing up is he was a truth teller, even against himself. No, I didn't do that very well. I did that really well. Like, it was always accurate. It was never bragging, and it wasn't putting himself down. It was honest. Like, sometimes it almost startled me, because I feel like this is probably where people lie. Like, the lies that we say, I think Jordan Peterson says we lie like 60-some%. Like, we lie way more than we realize. So much so that if you're really a constant truth teller, it's gonna be like, whoa, I'm not used to that, because we're not. People withhold, people change stories, people tell you what you want to hear, but we don't fully live in a life of truth. I don't like the phrase self-love. I don't like talking about how you should love yourself. It's to me, it's an automatic. And if you don't love yourself because of things that people have done, of course, people can get counseling, people can get healing. You can see a life coach. There's people that can help you through certain things. I agree. But if you just love yourself more, then you're going to be a complete whole person. No, you're not there. You'll be a more self-absorbed person. You're missing it. You're missing it. It's about what we do for others. It's how we live for others. It's how we put others first. And I'm not talking about putting others first at our own detriment. I'm not talking about the wife of 20 years who's been with an abusive husband and I'm just going to keep putting him first while I'm getting no, I'm not talking about that. But I'm talking about the words that we say matter, and I think there's a better way to approach and look at these things. Let me give you one more example before we sign off for today. We want to be humble in our aspirations. So when someone someday I may run for president of the United States. I've said it my whole life. I'm going to do it. I just need this. I need to become like Joe Rogan and become super famous. Then I'm running for president the next year, instant. Let's do it. Not enough people know me yet, but let's just say I'm running for president. Humble in aspirations. If I aspire to be or do something, then the way I step into that aspiration has to be humble. That could be a new job. That could be coaching a group of 8-year-olds in soccer. I'm gonna walk into this goal humble. I've seen young people get into coaching and they're making it all about themselves, their record, their success, my team, what I do. It's not gonna work. You're not gonna be a successful coach. It starts with humility. And then when you have success, you're gracious in that success. You see the positive things that you've accomplished and you've done, and you're thankful for people who have made that possible. You're grateful for the people that see some of your successes and tell you like there's a humility. Now it's wrapped in gratefulness. And here's the thing. When you fail, and you will fail, you're not going to tell yourself lies. You're going to live in truth. Your ego's not going to tell you wrong stories of why this is happening to you so that you become a victim and you start making excuses. No, what you're going to be is you're going to be resilient in your failures, and you'll have failures. And that mechanism can keep us out of the ego, being an egomaniac or telling ourselves lies. We can live in humility, graciousness, and truth with everyone we walk into. And that is a game changer for the people in our lives. And we will fail at that, but be honest with yourself. What ways is your ego getting in the middle of your life? So thank you so much, folks, for listening. All my friendly reminders. I'm going to start having some commercials, me doing it soon. I'm still working through that. I apologize. I don't have that ready yet. I have some folks I'm ready to promote their business. Subscribe, the Ben Keech Show. Go to YouTube, go to Spotify. Send this episode to somebody. You got to follow this guy. I don't know. That kind of sounded egotist. See, that's still, I would be honored. See, I'm trying to use my own thing. I'd be honored for anyone to follow and more importantly, to comment on what you think I'm doing right or wrong, what you like, what you don't like. I see every single one. I appreciate every single one. Thank you so much for listening today. I cannot wait to talk to you tomorrow. The next several episodes are going to have guests, and I can't wait for you to meet some new folks, some great people in the Kansas City area and all over the place. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you so much for listening. Have a great day. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. Let's keep the conversation going. You can reach out on Ben's website, www.benkeechshow.com, or on social media to chat. And please remember to subscribe so that you never miss an episode.